Hello and welcome to this video about Ballyadams Castle in County Laois. I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the place, and then I'm going to map a few things around it and explain why I mapped things the way I did already. Let's get into it. I have actually done a little bit of mapping, of course, already, because I had a lot of notes left over to resolve and I didn't want to take you through all of that. I'll just show you what I have done already and then do a bit more. So I type in Ballyadams Castle up in the search bar on openstreetmap.org and hit go. And there seems to be only one. And it's here. So I've changed the shape a little bit to reflect what it actually looks like. And if I click on this on the left hand side, you can see all the tags that I've already added, or that some of them were already done. Because I think I had mapped it already when we did the Laois task with the buildings project in alphabetical order. Access is private, very important. It's on private land and it's not a very secure site. So go in a group. The guy who organized this event, Sean Murray, he's going to probably organize more of these because this was already, I think he said, his 5th visit with the group. So if you look out for Laois Archaeology, that's him on Facebook, you might be able to join one of those groups one day. It is probably owned by the people living in Ballyadams House. They didn't say where they lived, but the owner of the land welcomed us there and it's very helpful. Then building ruins is the next tag. And castle type is defensive. It's kind of obvious because it's a castle. I don't really like that castle type. I would have preferred to use tower house, but only one part of it is a tower house. And it was converted from a gatehouse, so it's complicated. Historic civilization, medieval. It's kind of a given. A name, source, Bing, and that's the source for the first drawing of the outline, so it's not really correct anymore. Should be Esri as well. And then I went there and I took a couple of pictures and I uploaded them to Wiki Commons or Wikimedia. And here is one of the pictures that you can link, so you get a bit of an impression of the size. And then there's a Wikipedia link. There's only a Ukrainian Wikipedia article about this castle. I don't know why. I've linked that. You can see here usually when I tell you to use the Wikipedia link, you would start with the language code EN for English. But since it only has a Ukrainian one, you start with UK. And then you copy whatever is in the article. I think that reads Samok Ballyadams. My Cyrillic is a bit rusty. So these are the things I've already added, and then I was able to add this ruin here and this ruin and this bit. And 4 of the fields. I want to say something really important about Wikimedia. You know that I'm nagging on about adding all these pictures to Wikimedia, and that's not just to keep you occupied, but there was where's it gone now? There was a door in the doorway of the castle until 2018. Now I have to find the right thing to click. Here. So there was a doorway here until 2018, oak door, double door with studs, and it was stolen and it hasn't been found since. Interestingly, one of the people on the tour when we went there said that he had seen a door in an antique shop in Donegal that looked very much like it could fit that door. So please record your monuments. If you take pictures of these things that could be moved, I don't think the people who own the castle really thought anybody would go and steal 2 very heavy oak doors, but they did. So if you go and take pictures of your monuments, please, please, please upload them to Wikimedia. Put them in the category for that castle or that monument, and then at least they are recorded where they are, and then when they are stolen, at least there is images available for anyone from anywhere, easily found. You don't have to go rooting around through blogs or Flickrs or whatever, but if it's on Wikimedia, it's a really good repository for these kinds of things. So please record your monuments. Not just to pass the time, but to prevent crime and to help solve crimes. Now back to the mapping. So I'll go in here and I divided the building of the castle into 2 parts, and I talked about how to map building relations in a previous video, which I will link up there. So this part is the oldest part. That used to be a gatehouse, and I think it looked a little bit like the one in Kilkenny Castle, which is now gone. But if I remember the lecture by Colleen O'Driscoll correctly, there was a gatehouse where there's no wall now anymore, and it looked a little bit like this. And if I remember correctly, also there was a spiral staircase in one of the towers, and there is a spiral staircase here. There is also a Kilkenny connection. There's even a Rothaus connection for this castle. So the first mention of the castle is 1303. I don't remember all the dates, and especially not all the names from what Sean told us. But 1303 was the first mention, and then again 1333. And there was an Arnold de la Poer involved, and I thought, hold on, I know that name. And he was one of the very influential politicians of the time who helped Alice Kittler, the alleged witch, in her trial. And he was actually related to her third husband, basically her third victim too. I don't know why he would help her, but that's what he did. He was friends with her son, who was the son of the first marriage to William Outlaw, and his name was also William Outlaw. But anyway, Arnold de la Poer was the owner of this castle at some point in time. And so there's that connection. The other connection to Rothaus is that we do have portraits of the Power family from Kilfane in our collection, and the Power family is obviously they're descendants of the de la Poers, and they were donated from Gortine Castle in Tipperary, and I've actually played in that castle, played music in that castle. So there is a connection to Kilkenny and even Rothaus with this castle, but everything is connected, you just have to know. Anyway, so this is the Tower House, first gatehouse. So there was a gate here, and then later on they built this fortified house, so I added that as a separate building part, which meant I could put dates on them, start date, which I didn't do because I didn't do my research, but I could also add the Sites and Monuments Records number here, which we now use Ref:/IE:/SMR, because there's separate numbers for these building parts because they're from different periods in time. And as I said, there is a video about how to do that. In this part of the tower of the castle, there is an oubliette, which is it's a dungeon, and there's a vault in the basement, and on the ground floor level there's a hole in the ground. It's very narrow, you can't really escape out of it. You're let down there, and then you're basically being forgotten there because it's from the French oublier, to forget. So oubliette is a place where you're being forgotten. And Sean said that there are only 2 in the country. One there, and the other one is in Leap Castle, maybe? I'm not sure. I didn't take notes. And I think I've heard of one of them before, and I think it was in Nottingham Castle when I went on a tour there, but that's like 18 years ago. It's very hard to remember all this. I might have just seen them on Time Team or something. But anyway, the oubliette is there, and I had taken it's not mine, it's a borrowed 360-degree camera with me and took some pictures in the castle. And I took one in the oubliette, and it's very dark there, so the picture is not great. And I've uploaded them to mapillary.com. I think I've done a video on that as well. I can't remember. And so you see all these are the dots where I had the camera positioned. They're not necessarily the correct position because it's difficult to get GPS in walls that are like 3 meters thick. But here's the oubliette. That's the bottom, the basement level. So there's the door that you can actually access it from now. It's easy to escape now. But there's a vaulted ceiling here. As I said, the picture is not great. That's the hole there where you're being thrown in. And there might be a little bit of wicker impression there. I'm not entirely sure. And amazingly, there's still a lot of timber surviving in that castle. Not whole floors, but yeah. I found amazing how much timber there was still there. And that's the other one. That's the above the ground floor level. So that's the camera here, actually. And there's another vault. You come in there and there's the hole in the ground. And that's the oubliette. And there are a couple more pictures from the castle. Can't remember all the rooms. Some of the rooms weren't really accessible, so I just placed the camera at the entrance to be able to take a picture, because we were not supposed to go into some of the rooms. Except the lighting is not great. There's one more outdoor where the light would be better. So that gives you a bit of an impression without actually having to go there. Back to the map. Then I've added these 4 fields here because Shirley, who was showing us around, gave me the field names and I might have gotten something wrong there. So if someone could show her the video and maybe she can get in contact with me, I gave her my phone number. So that should work out. Sorry, I have birds in the roof doing stuff. I don't know. So this one here, that's pretty easy. She said that was the castle lawn, and I actually left notes here so I would remember. But I think they're not always in the right place because I got a bit confused about the location of the fields. So this one is the castle lawn. So I marked that as farmland, and I could actually also mark it as meadow. And then add the name Castle Lawn. Also this, when this was built, this was the gatehouse, as I've now mentioned a couple of times. There was a curtain wall here, and it apparently continued all the way here to somewhere. And the person who owns the land, I don't want to say their names because of GDPR, he's been ploughing here and he has come across foundations of these curtain walls, and I presume they went around here as well. So it must have been a massive castle, probably almost as big as Kilkenny Castle, which, if you've ever been in Ballyadams, is very hard to believe. But it was very, very fertile land, and of course that fertile land makes you rich if you play your cards right. So this piece here, I hope I'm getting this correct, she said was called the Cherry Orchard. And I think it could be small enough. Orchards aren't usually terribly big on these kinds of, in these fields. And what I found interesting then, because we parked at St. Joseph's Church at the big car park between the church and the school, walked down this boreen. It really is a boreen. And they were at least 2 cherry trees along here. So I've added 2 trees here. Massive, massive cherry trees. I've never seen cherry trees that big. So I'm just gonna add the genus to them. Genus :en cherry. And again, I've made videos about how to map trees, and you can just watch that in a bit more detail. Link that up there. And then there was a hedge here, and also on the other side, obviously, because it is a boreen. But what I noticed in this one here was that there was a lot of hazel, and I don't know if that is significant, but of course hazel was used a lot for coppicing back in the Middle Ages and before. So and it wasn't just hazel, but I just want to add this as a genus as well. Genus :en hazel. Okay, for some reason that is spelled not with a capital H. We can also go and add the Latin. The Irish for hazel is, I've forgotten that now, something beginning with C. But the word for forest comes from it. Hazel. Cull. And the Latin is also something that sounds very similar to that. I won't look it up now, but they are cognate words anyway. So you could also add just genus and then use the Latin. Anyhow. And then she pointed up there, and I'm not entirely sure if she meant this field and this field, or this field and this field. So I'm just maybe not gonna add the name to this one, because it looked rather green when she pointed at it, but now I'm not sure. So anyway, it has an Irish name, which was Bula Dog. I haven't a clue what it means. The Bula is Bula from the Irish Bula for summer meadow. And I first came across that word on Achill Island. I don't know if you're familiar with the deserted village there. That was used for bullying, which means that during the summer months, young people would take all the cattle up there and watch over the cattle and probably get up to a lot of things, shenanigans. And in the autumn, they would bring them down again. And that's called bullying. And it's done in other countries, in Germany and in Austria and in Switzerland. It's called, the Bulia is called, is the Alm. So ALM. So they have Almauftrieb and Almabtrieb. That's just when they bring the cattle up into the mountains or bring them down. And the cows, you might have seen them on the telly or somewhere, they have these massive bells around their neck. And you hear them coming from afar, and there's a sign that the Almabtrieb is happening. So there's a little excursion to the Alps. So Bula, I'm just going to spell it in English. Sorry about that. And then somebody maybe be able to figure out what the dog part means. So Bula Dog. This is how I'm going to spell it. I hope that's all right. I don't know if maybe it's Derek. Maybe it's a corrupted version of Derek. That there was maybe clover growing in it, and that turned the meadow red, kind of, or something. Because you do get that, where was it, Bon Bui, near Bennett's Bridge, and it was just because there was buttercups growing in the field. They didn't call it the field of the buttercups, they just called it the yellow field, because that's the colour of the field. So maybe that's it, but like as you know, my Irish is very, very limited. So I'm just gonna leave it there and maybe add a fix me. Please try to figure out Irish name. Of course, the farmer didn't know what it meant. They usually don't, they just have the names, which is a good start. Because they've just been handed down, and people don't think about these things. If you live on the land and you just work it, you don't think about this. So I don't know if this was also called the Bula Dog or if it was this one, but there are definitely two of them. And I hope that maybe somebody can show this video to her, whoever was there. And maybe she can contact me, please. So, is this all I wanted to do? I think it actually is, yeah. That was shorter than I thought. And I will save this. And only 7 changes. Added field names and added genus to plants. Sources, survey, oops. Yep. And upload. In case I didn't make that clear, I think it's important that there are 2 cherry trees up here because there was a cherry orchard down there, and maybe they were just a bird ate the cherry and left the remains there, and a massive cherry, 2 massive cherry trees grew there. While we're waiting for the data to come through, the group that I went with then went on to Ballyadam's graveyard, which I couldn't join because I had a gig in Strabally to play music in a nursing home, so I had to leave, unfortunately. There is the graveyard here, and there is an epitaph for John Bowen, who got the castle, I think, in the 1550s, if I remember correctly, and he had a name, Sean, which is on the 25-inch map, Sean Afika Bowen, because they had taken the land of the O'Moores family. They were one of the, are they 6 or 7 tribes in Laois? The O'Moores, anyway. They had taken the land off them, and of course the O'Moores didn't like that and wanted the land back. But this Sean, Shane, whatever, Bowen from Wales wouldn't have any of it, and he had a large pike, and he would just pike them, I guess. So Sean Afika of the Pike, Bowen was his name, and he's buried there, and the epitaph has been defaced by the O'Moores probably, and but I didn't get to see that, unfortunately. So, and then there are also 2 holy wells. One is Tobernavina, I think, this one here, and it could be named after the saint that the townland was originally named after. And this one is Tobernashul, which is the well of the eyes, because it cures eye sicknesses, I guess. I haven't put the names on them because I only saw them on the 25-inch map, and I'm not supposed to copy those, and they're not legible on the British War Office map. So I was hoping that somebody on the tour would tell me the names, and I don't care where they have gotten them from. But since I didn't get to do that, so they are left nameless. But you can go in and add them now and give local knowledge as the source. Yeah, so that's Ballyadams Castle, and was a bit more history than the previous videos, and a bit more all over the place mapping. So it's not just one topic, it's just a collection of all previous topics, but you can watch all these videos after this. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and like the video, of course, if you did like it, and tell your friends, and go take pictures of your monuments and upload them to Wikimedia. Thank you very much. Bye.